Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of Lyon, France, where I show you a museum, how to buy a ticket, what the train station looks like, and also our path to getting to the museum. So we're starting here at this corner of Old Town, and we're walking down, or I guess up the street, to get to the cathedral that's on top of the hill. I think it's called Basilica. And also we happen to chance upon the Roman Museum. So I guess you can tell by the phrasing of my words, we didn't do too much research coming here. And when you look at a Google Maps, it's kind of hard to tell or gauge how accessible things are by walking and generally just the distance of things. And the question arises, like, do you have to take an Uber when you travel, or are you going to have to use the subway? And these were things that it's kind of hard to find online. These smaller details. And so that's really why I want to show or make this video. Of course, I fast forward a lot more of the walking this time just because I didn't cut out so much because I want to keep a continuous shot. I do cut out some parts, but you can tell we just walked up this street right here, and finally we land in front of the museum, or I guess the Roman ruins and the museum, called Lugdunum. I have no idea how to pronounce it. It's an interesting name. I don't know the history behind the name. But guys, when we chanced upon this area, which you probably, by doing research, you found out that it's accessible. My goodness, we were shocked. My wife and I were so excited to come across these huge, it's not even cobblestones. If you look at the path, it's just huge boulders that were laid down across. And it's crazy because it's on top of a hill. Each one of these stones must have weighed at least half a ton, and they were just the main pathway to go up to the Colosseum, which is where everyone is kind of heading towards. There's also you might have just seen a few dogs here, which is really cool. I think Lyon in general, or France in general, probably all of Europe, they're really pet friendly. And we didn't bring our dog this time, but we are excited to travel with our Pomeranian a little bit more. His name is Peanut, which you might see in future videos as well. Anyways, you can tell the path towards the Colosseum it's a short one, but still I want to fast forward a little bit so that you can see right here, which is the Colosseum. Now, guys, it's really hard to give you it's even hard to show on video, but this Colosseum, when it was up 2,000, 3,000 years ago, could hold up to 10,000 people, which is really crazy to think about. I don't know how many stadiums in the US, but think about all the modern architecture that we have now. Anyway, so on top of the hill, you have to climb up through the Colosseum to get to the museum here. And this part is the entrance. And guys, the architecture for the museum itself is just as beautiful and fascinating as the contents inside of it. It's called the Gallo-Roman Museum of Lyon. And the architecture, his name was Bernard Zerfus. It opened in 1975. And it's known for its really, really beautiful spiral architecture, and also the descending ramps. It's just really cool, and you'll see a bit of it here. But as soon as you enter the first sub-level, you're confronted with this magnificent piece of art, which is incredible in terms of the amount of detail, the carvings. I can't imagine how long it took to put together. And the general, I guess, the thought or the atmosphere of entering into this museum, which is beautifully constructed, is that these things were made over 2,000 years ago. And try to think back to just even 100 years ago. Like, who was around? Maybe your great grandparents, but who was the president? Like, who were the famous important people 100 years ago? And I guarantee most of us don't really know the answers. And even if you look back, let's say 200, now if you scale back 500, 1,000 years ago, and the fact that we're looking at art that was made 2,000 to 3,000 years ago is really, really just fascinating. Okay, maybe not 3,000, but around the 2,000 years ago range, plus or minus a couple hundred years. And Lyon, as you can presume, was a really important part of the Roman Empire, especially when considering trying to head north of Italy and into, I guess, what is modern day, more of the, gosh, I might expose my ignorance here, but Germany and the UK and the Nordic areas. But anyways, so Lyon was a major hub before heading up north. And that's why it was such an important place. That's why there's so many ruins. That's why there was a Colosseum. And that's crazy because a lot of people go to Lyon thinking, I'll enjoy the food there, I'll enjoy Old Town, I'll enjoy the architecture and just the life and the vibes of the city. But then you go up the hill and you look up at the cathedral, and right next to it are these ruins. And you see all this pottery, you see so much history that was preserved here, which is just so cool to look at. And what a pleasure. The fact that so much, I'm honestly someone who hasn't gone to museums too much. And I think it was a part of me that it was never really instilled in me, the joy of it. I've been to a couple, but I haven't gone religiously. I haven't gone consistently enough to appreciate the depth of not just the curation of it, but the preservation, the restoration. And it's an art. It's absolutely beautiful. And the reminder is that there were human beings just like you and me walking around thousands of years ago, trying to preserve history, trying to express themselves, trying to leave their mark in the world. And I don't know, it just takes you to a different place, especially when you have all this history just laid out in front of you. Like, think about these stones that you're looking at, and someone etched these gravings, these words into the stone to preserve a message, to preserve an honor, honoring someone, or a gift, a donation, or this land belongs to, or this happened here. And we have the internet now in 2024, but back then they didn't. And they literally just had huge slabs of stone to write into so that everyone passing by can read it. What a time. Imagine a time where there was no electricity, no modern machinery as we know it, but there was still brilliant engineering enough to, I guess, get these huge stones up. And of course, there's probably a lot of slave labor and a lot of, I guess, just city workers. The city, I presume, would have hired thousands of people to keep up infrastructure like they do now. But it just looked different. Like, look at these. Imagine these are just pieces of stones, but imagine huge walls, entire walls with just engravings etched into them by hand. And it was a sight to behold, especially if you're coming from a part of the world where you didn't have these kinds of things. So, it makes you think about the bigger picture of why, what was the downfall of Rome? And what was the downfall of every European superpower that was after Rome over the last 2,000 years? And right now you look at the US and you look at China and you look at, I don't know, what are there's the G20. Of course, there's all the big countries out there. But you look at the world superpowers now and nothing lasts forever, which is mind-boggling. Some countries have, they have great seasons of just explosions of innovation and art and engineering. And then you always have a demise and a downfall, which is, it's really interesting to think about. These are just a random few pictures. We did get to the cathedral, but we were too pooped to actually walk in. And this is the way down. This is a coffee shop, puzzle cafe, amazing. Open on Sundays, thankfully. We were there in the morning before our train. And just a quick clip of what the interior looked like. I think it was for sale, or they were going to close shop and someone purchased it. And now, if you don't speak French, it's fine. Almost everyone in Lyon speaks English, which is really, I say almost because the waiter at our restaurant didn't. One of the waiters didn't. But for the most part, It's kind of like a Paris, like a small Paris. And this part of town is clean, and we really enjoyed it. So this is us leaving Bellacour, and our hotel was here. This was kind of in that makeshift peninsula. I say makeshift because I don't know what you call it if it's just between two rivers. I guess it is still a peninsula, right? Anyways, so we're leaving Bellacour, and this part of the video I'm showing you so that you get to see a couple of things. First is, what does it look like to purchase a subway ticket? And yeah, my wife here, who is, you can translate to English or a couple of other languages. And it's really simple, of course, once you can read the language. But we buy a single ticket for 2 people, and she's trying to use her knuckle because, you know, just for sanitation. She's not using her finger because it's touched by thousands of people. Anyways, she's able to purchase by credit card, as you can see here. It's for 40 euros for 2 people. And the convenience of it is you can just use, you know, Apple Pay or whatever credit card is on your phone, or you can put in a credit card. You can even do cash. And it's all very straightforward. They pop out down here. And I suggest, if you're going to be traveling, if you know you're going to be using the subway a lot, to buy the unlimited day pass, which I think was, I think maybe 8 to 10 euros per person. I can't remember specifically. And again, sorry for the flickering. I've captured this on 30 frames per second, and a lot of LED lights are at that frequency, so I might just do 24 next time. Anyways, so if you know you're going to be taking the subway multiple times, get the day pass. But we actually ended up just using the day pass, the subway once when we got to the city, and that was to get to the hotel, because everywhere else was accessible by foot. Of course, if you're going to be taking the tram up towards the cathedral, that's another subway fee. Although it's not a subway, it's a tram fee. But outside of those two, and I guess coming back down, you can always walk down. We didn't really use the subway, so I would suggest, if you're just going to be taking the subway into the city, you can just buy one pass, and that should be more than enough. Unless you know exactly what your plans are, that you'll need to have multiple subway tickets. Because the rest of it, as I mentioned in the first half, it's all walkable. Like you don't even need an Uber, which I thought we would need. You can walk up, and a lot of people, because was it raining? No, it wasn't raining. A lot of people walked up to the cathedral, especially because the trams were broken down. And my gosh, guys, what a great exercise. What a great way to just walk around, eat a ton of carbs, eat a lot of good food, and just burn a lot of calories at the same time. Anyways, I'm rambling, but this is what the subway looks like. This is what the actual, oh my gosh, shuttle looks like. Or the train. I don't know why I'm blanking out on this term. Anyways, you get into the train. I guess it's train, and it's pretty clean. That's one of the things I really appreciated about Lyon. You know, you go to New York City, and the subways literally look like they were made 100 years ago. And my wife checking out the camera. Anyways, this is where our transfer is to get back to the train station, the Gare. And it is, I can't remember, but you see here up top, you see the MB and the MD. It should all come up. So, Gare de Vries, excuse my terrible French accent. I'm trying to learn. Anyway, so on Google Maps, it tells you exactly where to make the transfers, and you can count how many stops. You see clearly the names all over the subway. So it was very easy to make that transition, or to know where to get off to make the transfer to this next, I guess, to get back to the train station. I'm starting to repeat myself because I didn't really script this out, and I'm just describing as I see it. But we walk towards Saxe Gambetta, and here is the train that will take us back to the train station. Just another inside shot. This is us getting off at the subway stop to get to the train station, and we actually make a quick pit stop, because we've been in Geneva for about 7 months now, and we really wanted to go to Chipotle. There was one at this Westfield mall right next to the train station, and we grab a Chipotle before we head back and this is us leaving it, but it's literally next to it. It's right across the street from where we actually was leaving from in the first half of the video. There's a lot of graffiti. It looks dirty, but it's all very simple and straightforward. And there's nothing confusing until you get to the Gare. And here we weren't sure where to go, what to look for. And so we walk in a little bit, and we're looking for some way to find where's a train, where's the station, where's the platform, how do we find where to go to? And we were really early, but we wanted to find the information. And we saw some green screens over there, and we're thinking, is that it? And I don't think it was. Only to find out that, you'll see in a little bit, but if you walk further down, they're all there. There's TVs everywhere. We're standing in the exact spot where we couldn't see it. And so we turned back to the entrance area, and if you look to the left of the screen, there are 4 TVs just kind of suspended in midair. And we did find the relevant information there as to what time the train would be leaving and which platform. Now, we were early enough that the information wasn't actually portrayed on the TVs. Like, for instance, we didn't know which platform we had to get onto. I'm not even sure if our train information was showing up, because I think it starts showing up maybe, I'm making this up, but I think around 30 minutes prior, you get to see the train information. Anyways, we found out, okay, so there's a TV. Let's explore the train station a little bit. And this is a Sunday late morning. It was quite busy. So this is really to the extent of the train station. There's one main huge corridor with all these steps that go up. And the steps that go up are the platforms. It's a really interesting, layout, because the steps they're kind of in the middle of the Gare. We are getting to the part where I start playing with the machines to buy train tickets. And the machines, there are 2 types, and I don't know the names. You'll immediately recognize if you come to this place, which is, one is really old looking and doesn't even have touchscreen. And the second one is it's much newer. And the older one uses a really weird rotary navigation system. You'll see as soon as I get there, but it's like a wheel that you have to spin and toggle through all the options, versus the newer one, which is all touchscreen. So here it is, the weird knob that I mentioned. Honestly, I had no idea how to really navigate it. And because everything was so slow, you weren't sure if the inputs were right. And there, the bottom one is trying to choose other cities, and I hit the green button. It's loading, but I wanted to look up, okay, how do I get back to Geneva from here? And once you get to this other city spot, or page, there's no way for you to even choose. And it was really frustrating. I think I try again, I can't remember, but I try to reset so that I can start all over again, see if maybe I was just, bugging out, but I give it another shot. You can choose English, which is at least nice that they let you choose a language, and it takes forever to load. And gosh, yeah, it's still loading, or yep, there we go. And it was taking super long. I guess it works if your city's listed here and you just click on one, but we haven't even gotten to that point. So what I do try is going to the newer one, which is right next to it, with the touch screen. And this one is much more convenient, a lot easier. You can choose your language, and it's very straightforward. So if you have an SNCF account, you can log in and you can get discounts, but honestly, people who are coming here probably don't have an SNCF account. So you can choose no, and then you can go ahead with choosing a single or a round trip. And here, okay, so I do it again, and sorry it's not completely focused on the screen, but you can still kind of figure out what I'm trying to do. And here I'm looking up other cities, again, Geneva, so I'm typing in GE, and it comes up, and you can choose single, and you can choose one or several passengers. I choose one. You choose the age, because depending on how old you are. And here you can see the pricing. It is 33, I believe, 32 or 33 euros for a one-way trip back to Geneva, which the trains were really convenient. It was only 2.5 hours, and they're quite comfortable. I think they were double decker, and yeah, so if you're ever in a pinch and you find yourself in Lyon, it's really easy to buy a ticket, a one-way single trip from their kiosk machines. And so with that out of the way, I hope that terrible shot where it was just half the screen kind of shows you what it looked like. So if you ever end up here, you know how to buy a ticket. But again, if you're online, you can do it yourself. And if you're not, you can just do it here, which is really convenient. Alrighty, so you see these screens everywhere up top on the right, the blue screens, and everywhere really, there's just so much information. And initially, I wish we just walked in a little bit more to see all the TV so we wouldn't have freaked out so much, but they're everywhere. And we found out where our platform is. And you see these stairs going up, that's the way to get to the platforms. It's really weird how they would just sprawl out these steps in the middle of the building. You would think that they push it to the side or outside, but nope, it's right here. And so we find our gate, and this gentleman here in front of us is also a little confused. I think we're a little bit too early, but he's in the right place, and basically he's checking that little pole looking thing. I guess it has the information as well, but we knew which gate, so we both head up at the same time. Again, we're still early, I think maybe 15 minutes early, and I would always prefer to be earlier than late anyways. And we're here. This is the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope it was helpful buying the subway tickets, buying a train ticket, what it looks like to walk towards the train station, making those transfers, the museum, which is fascinating. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.